This movie is fabulous. The sets were so real. The actors really wanted their parts.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. Welcome back to Is It Still Good? The show with two grown-up film students who hate growing up. I'm Bear Kennedy in Chicago. Joining me today, as always,
Andrew Carter in Los Angeles. And we have a very special guest. We have Sasha Patpatia, also in Los Angeles. Where in Los Angeles are you actually, Sasha?
Right now, physically, Santa Monica in the recording studio I work in. That sounded way. It's actually just a writing studio.
Anytime you say studio, it sounds cool. Like,
I know. Amazing.
Like whenever people used to say, like, I live in a studio, I used to be like, what? Ooh. But then you see a studio apartment and you're like, ooh, no, not for me.
Yeah. No fridge? No, thank you.
Yeah. But anyways, so today we are discussing the 2001 cult classic. It is a cult classic. Josie and the Pussycats. And the reason that we have Sasha on is because this film is very near and dear to her heart. So before Bear and I get into our history with it, or lack thereof, spoiler alert, Sasha, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with it and why you were so adamant about wanting to talk about this particular film?
Would love to. Growing up, I wanted to be a rock star. I'm 30 years old. I still want to be a rock star. That's just never going to die. And that movie came out, and it was exactly how I envisioned my life to be. Just this cool punk rock chick living with my two best friends, fucking get famous, solve a world problem, and then play a stadium rock show.
Solve a world problem.
Yeah, no big deal.
Exactly. That was all on my to-do list when I was, 2001, so I was 11 years old. I mean, I was 11 years old, and I was just watching my life, how I expected my life in my 20s would be. Did it turn out that way? Maybe not. Oh, halfway there?
I remember when Josie and the Pussycats came out. So, Sasha, when did you first see it?
Oh, man. I saw it in theaters, so I guess in 2001.
Nice.
Wow.
Dream, right? It felt like I was a stadium. By the way, for anyone listening and for you guys, the soundtrack really holds up.
I noticed that as well. I was listening to it, really tried to get in the mood here to talk about this movie, and it worked better than I thought it was going to. It definitely sounds more Avril Lavigne than, I'd say, even Letters to Cleo or some of the other stuff from that time, which I do like.
Yeah.
And I especially like Veruca Salt and Hole. And this isn't that dark. This is kind of more poppy, but it's so earnestly what it is. It's interesting because it's not a parody of the time. It's actually made exactly from that time, which is really interesting.
Right, yeah, and the lead singer of Letters to Cleo was the singer of Josie. Or she sang Josie's lyrics on the soundtrack. And I agree, the soundtrack definitely holds up. They're good songs. And I remember, I had forgotten them, but when spoiler alert, Bear and I think I can speak for you. We haven't seen the movie. I had never seen the movie.
This was my first experience.
Yeah, this was my first experience, too. I remember vividly when it came out. I remember that song, the opening credits song. The 6 long hours and 9 long...
Which is catchy as fuck.
It's really catchy.
Fun, right?
Yeah, and I remember when it came out because for the first time, I went to Los Angeles in March of 2001. That was like, for Christmas 2000, my parents were like, here for Christmas, we're going to take you to LA in the spring. Because I was like obsessed with movies, and part of that trip was going to Universal Studios Hollywood. And if you've been to Universal Studios Hollywood, it's right on the back lot, so you see the posters for the movies coming out that year. Yeah. And so that year, it was Josie and the Pussycats, The Mummy Returns, The Fast and the Furious, Jurassic Park 3, American Pie 2. And I think those were the ones that were up in March, but like I was like on
that memory. I forgot about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, 2001 Universal Pictures was my shit. I think I bought all, except for Josie and the Pussycats, I think I bought all those movies on DVD when they came out. But I had never seen it. So how did you see it more than once in theaters, Sasha, or did you see it just the one time?
Just the one time. I wasn't a serial theater goer, but I bought it. I bought it, and I bought it a third time last week in preparation for this show on iTunes.
Whoa! How much did you buy it for?
Oh, 15. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the premium shit, man.
Oh, I should have given you my HBO Max because it's on HBO.
Oh, I know, but I figured I would add it to my library.
Yeah, don't feel bad about that. Clearly, this needs to be owned.
Yeah.
It was the move. It was the move.
I mean, especially for you, if it means as much to you as it clearly does, it's like, yeah. Why not? So wait, tell us about the versions of it that you bought. Was one of them VHS?
VHS, DVD.
Nice.
And now, so I mean, I'm just bringing it into the future with me.
Sweet.
Does iTunes have special features with it?
I haven't explored that yet. Oh my God. But I remember the DVD does. And this is what I love about movies from like the early 2000s. You guys know this. The credits, I hope you watch the credits, Andrew. They have all the bloopers.
Yeah.
Having a fucking good time with each other. I'm sorry about that. And that was always that's like my most favorite thing. I'm like, oh my God, they're friends in real life. Like, too, I think. I'm like, they really do love each other. Maybe they really are in a band. You know, I would suspend my belief for anything in that movie. I was like, maybe Rachel Leigh Cook is really singing these songs.
I know. I agree with you. I love that shit though. When it looks like they're having fun. Like my favorite bloopers ever are probably the Rush Hour 2 bloopers, also from 2001.
I have to check that out.
Oh, they're great. Because Chris Tucker keeps calling Jackie Chan Jackie instead of his character name Lee. He's like, Jackie, kick the door.
Is this one where, like, the old Jackie Chan movies used to have just a montage of him getting harmed? Because he used to do his own stunts.
Yeah.
Is this like that?
Yeah, the bloopers are basically that. And
there was one, I forget if it was, I suspect it was Rumble in the Bronx or Who Am I, where he had to do a stunt where he jumped feet first through a ladder. Like a standing ladder, and he just jumped and just nailed the hole. And in the moment, you're like, holy shit. But then they do their bloopers, and he biffs it like 30 times. Like, he could not stop fucking up. So those used to be great with Jackie Chan movies, was just watch him just fuck up a ton after you see the successful execution of it. I love that shit.
That's amazing. So, yeah, we can talk a little bit about the history of Josie and the Pussycats. So, it came out April 11th, 2001. It's based off an Archie comic.
That's what's cool.
Yeah, I think I knew that going in, but when I forget when they started talking about how they were like from Riverdale, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that now I remember. And apparently on the show Riverdale now, they're on the like Josie and the Pussycats are on there. They're not like main characters, I don't think, but they're there.
They're at school.
Yeah. They're at school, yeah. And so it was based off the Archie comics, and in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a Josie and the Pussycats 16-episode TV show, Josie and the Pussycats in Space. But apparently it sounds pretty fucking rad. But apparently it got canceled. And actually the filmmakers, the directors of Josie and the Pussycats, the writer-directors, that was their first pitch to Universal. Basically just a straight film adaptation of that TV show.
What did they do in space? Were they playing music still, or was it more... Was there a lot of space drama? Like, how did they... Like, I don't follow Riverdale, but I am correct in thinking space is not a big...
Right, where they're like the mysteries and there's all these characters, but at the same time they also have a musical number kind of thing. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
okay.
That's basically what the show in space was. It was almost like Scooby-Doo in space, except they were all women and there was a band and there was no dog. So I guess that's like pretty different from Scooby-Doo. I'm like, it's basically Titanic in space, except there's no ship. Leonardo DiCaprio's not there. There's no water.
Well, the drummer character is kind of like a shaggy stoner type person.
Yeah.
So you've got that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, Tara Reid. My uncle, my mom's middle brother, Mark, I don't know why this came up, but for some reason... I think when we were kids, like, Tara Reid was, like, really popular and everybody had a crush on her or whatever. And so, like, we'd be watching, like, I don't know, American Pie or something, probably when we weren't supposed to. And my uncle knew who she was for some reason, so he'd always walk in and be like, oh, who's that? Is that Tara Reid? And that's how he'd pronounce it. And he still, to this day, will be, like, talking about, like, he'll be like, come up to me and be like, how's LA? Have you met Tara Reid yet? And I'm like, no.
Fun fact, she was dating Carson Daly at the time of the movie, and he has a where they kind of have a then she kicks his ass.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Josie. It was a box office bomb. It made $14 million on a reported $39 million budget, and Harry Elfont and Deborah Kaplan, the writer-directors, basically have said it kind of just like pushed them out of the film industry because they what happens sometimes apparently is if a movie doesn't, if you make a movie that that has a certain budget that like loses the studio money and doesn't get like, I think you can survive if your movie gets bad reviews but makes money.
Yeah.
Or maybe if it doesn't make that much money but it gets like incredible reviews. But you can't have it get bad reviews and lose money. And that's what happened to this. And so they've since written some movies. They wrote Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey, and they wrote Leap Year with Amy Adams, and they ran a show called Liza on Demand about the YouTube star Liza Koshy. They're still working and everything, but they said they haven't directed a movie since because they were really crushed because they genuinely thought they made something unique and something special. But as fate would have it, and as history has gone on, it has garnered a cult status. That's why we said, cult classic earlier, and it's because people have started to pick up on the fact of how prescient it was, of its satire for, corporatizing the music industry and product placement in every scene, which, by the way, they didn't get any money for that.
Right.
And just 3 years ago here in LA in 2017, there was a screening of it at the Ace Hotel downtown. And Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, and Rosario Dawson were all there for a Q&A. And then there was a performance of the Josie and the Pussycats songs.
Where the hell was I?
I was just going to ask.
I was just going to ask, yeah.
San Francisco at the time, 3 years ago? My life. Bay. Jesus Christ.
Tough.
That's what I live for. I'll have you guys know. I still listen to the soundtrack. Obviously, it's great. We all decided.
Like, do you listen to it regularly?
I go through phases of listening to it regularly. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, when I work out, I have to be full imagination zone or I can't fucking move my body. I'll be doing cardio, listening to it. I will be in my head pretending I'm Josie. Like, this is very revealing. I'm so sorry to slap with that weirdness, but it so moves me still. So when you just said a few sentences ago, like, we examine things that kind of still bring relevance into our lives, it's absolutely relevant in my life.
That's amazing.
It's like, I'm a 30-year-old woman, I'm paying my bills, but like, I can't be happy without picturing my life to be like a mid-2000s movie out of my eyes.
I don't blame you. And especially right now during the fucking pandemic, we all want to be somewhere else.
We don't want to be here right now. No.
What is your favorite song on the soundtrack? Hello? Can someone hear me?
I heard you.
The bear question.
No, that was to you. Sorry, Sasha. No, Bear asked.
I'll take it. My favorite song is the first one. I like the Three Small Words. I think that's the strongest track. I'm not a huge fan of the song called Josie and the Pussycats. In general, I don't love when a band does a song about their name because, that has been done and perfected by the Monkees, and no one will do it better. So it's a fool's errand to try to redo that. But Sasha, the original question: since you're so familiar with it, what is your favorite track?
Okay, I just learned on guitar. I just taught myself pretend to be nice. I know.
Nice.
Here we are, friends, right? We're all friends here. And I like spin around. There's a lot of energy. This is you hit the nail on the head with Avril Lavigne. There's a lot of energy. Yeah. I think that's really important to understand about this. There's so much forward moving momentum and like energy. It's pumping,
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of rare to have like a female fronted band and have that. That's like, it's easier for me to identify with it that way. It's not Green Day or something.
So was this something for you? Were these female characters role models for you growing up?
Yeah, in a way. I had this whole like rock thing going on. Even like Jack Black and School of Rock. It was a toss up between School of Rock and Josie because
Oh, nice.
They were role models in the sense of like, you know what? That's a really good question. To be completely honest, they weren't Courtney Loves. Like I loved Hole too. I loved Nirvana and Hole.
They're awesome. That Hole stands up now. I mean, Courtney Love has certainly had a rough go of it, so I don't even blame her for doing crazy shit. I mean, fucking Kurt Cobain blew his brains out and never blamed her. But her output with Hole is awesome. They make awesome music.
Live through this, like that's I don't even know, but they weren't my role models. Like that scared me. I was like, I used to be like, I'm a rock star, but do I have to dress like that? Like, I have to do that. Like I was like, oh. And then Josie comes out, and it really just was like depicting like three best friends. Like in the beginning of the movie when Valerie's like, who's a rock star? You're a rock, just like they're so supportive. They have cats everywhere. Like they were just positive. I don't know. I was just like, I wanted that life so bad. I grew up half Indian, right? So pretty sheltered life. Like my parents wouldn't let me play in a band with like boys. You know what I mean? They'd be like, that's inappropriate. And that's okay too. Like I grew out of that, but it was so like what I wanted so desperately and what I like knew I had in me. And so I kind of just lived through the depictions of these three women. And I was like, I don't care if me and my best friend split one pack of ramen, like for dinner together. Like, I just want this life. Like, I want this freedom. And I think in a big way, it was one of the films that contributed to me pursuing an artistic career and going to Chapman University. And like, I didn't go into film school thinking I was going to make films like Josie, of course, but like as a very impressionable and very passionate young person who like felt very misunderstood, this movie depicted visually something that I could actually look up to and be like, oh, I don't have to like do cocaine and be a rock star. I could also just like love my friends and stand by my values, whatever those might be,
Right.
Was that the first time you encountered that? Because you were 11 when you saw it. Was that like the first time you had that thought?
Oh, that's a great question. I probably had it younger. I probably had it before. I was obsessed with I loved the Beatles growing up and would watch all of their movies, and that left an impression on me. Like Beatlemania, I had Beatlemania, right? I was, for as far as women in music and rock stardom is concerned, absolutely. In our age group, that wasn't quite relevant or prevalent. And when it was a little more looked down upon. And I'm going to just say like specifically in the rock genre, like I don't want to speak to soul music and other genres that I wasn't as into until like my high school years. I also have an embarrassing story. I bought the soundtrack for Josie, and
the CD?
The CD. And I was in study hall in freshman year of high school, and I was making new friends. And this one girl at the table was like, "What are you listening to?" And I was so embarrassed to say Josie and the Pussycats because I was trying to be cool. I was a freshman. So I was like, I don't have a little sister. I was like, my little sister like used my CD player and she left this CD in here, and it's stupid. I was listening to the Ramones before, like and they were like, that's stupid. Josie's stupid. And then this one guy, Spencer, I had a crush on him. He went, here, let me see that. And he took out his little Swiss Army knife and he scratched up the back of the, and he's like, here, you give this back to your sister and tell her to not use your things. And I was like, yeah, she sucks. I don't have a little sister. It was totally my CD.
Oh, no.
I got out of school and I went to my dad's office and he was like, Dad, I got bullied and someone scratched my CD. I was such a minute. And he took me to Amoeba and we got a new CD.
That's so sweet. That's also so fucking cool that you had Amoeba when you were 10 or 11.
Oh, Berkeley. I grew up in Berkeley.
Yeah, right. That's where it is. Yeah, Amoeba's awesome. They moved. The LA location moved to, I think, somewhere on Hollywood Boulevard.
Glad to hear it's still in business.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least it's still fucking in business. That's
right.
That's the most important thing. Because,
11 years... Being 11 is like the perfect time to not be okay with your own opinions too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it takes a little bit till you can be like, all right, I like this and it's good and I don't give a shit what other people say and this is what I'm into for sure.
I was going to say, I'm 31 and I still sometimes struggle with that. Like, of fucking like, oh yeah, no, I didn't, like, oh, this is stupid, right? Like, I saw, Sasha, that story got me because like, I totally did that shit too. Like, yeah. we all did, I'm sure, but it's like, I could so see that happening of like, oh yeah, I don't like this, whatever it is, like.
Yeah, let's rip this up.
That's the most shocking part, that like, they committed to actually destroying it, and you were like, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you said pursue a career in the arts. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing now, but like also when you worked at? I know you worked at Warner Brothers Records and and other labels and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that, and also how you relate that to the the content of Josie and the Pussycats?
Oh, it's perfect. It's beyond perfect. I mean, that movie was made when I think the music industry was still at a peak, and it's not anymore.
That may have been the peak, actually. Like March of 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, when I used to work at Rhino Records, which is a catalog label, that was cool. I liked that job. I liked that label a lot. It has the greats, Zeppelin and Aretha, and it has the Dead and all that. And a lot of the employees had been there 25, 30 years. And I used to hear stories of like, oh yeah, the music industry back in the day, man, we used to be doing coke off our desks and prostitutes were walked through the hallways and just like fucking Eddie Vedder was like doing a guitar solo in this office. Like they had the stories of the record industry, and they're like, and now we are pushing paper and tech is taking over our jobs. But
Jesus,
like Rhino was cool because you had all the people who've been in it and been in the game since like maybe the 80s and had all those stories of like pretty much the sexiest industry, right? Like this in film, like it was very sexy. It was like everyone wanted this. Everyone wants this. And that's kind of what they talk about in the movie is like, that's what's so funny about the movie is how they were like, we created behind the music to just explain this revolving door of artists. Everyone wants this. Everyone wants this shot. And if you walk away from it, like, who cares? Like, no one's going to beg for you to come back. Like, we'll find another band tomorrow in some dumb town in the middle of America and we'll take advantage, and that's kind of, it's truthful to how the attitude is here. To go into my own career and my path, it is that expectation. Andrew, you work in film and you understand it's that like attitude of like, we can treat you how we treat you and we can do what we want because if you leave, there's like a bajillion people who will take this desk. There's it's that whole ideal of you're so lucky to be here. You're so like, no matter what, like you don't mean anything until you've proven yourself. And that's the music industry. And that's a little bit of the film industry too. And it is what it is. And so when I left college, I was a music journalist in college for all 4 years. And that kind of got me into internships at record labels and indie and major. And I just started working right out of college at Warner Records and in the marketing department. And that was great. That was intense. And exactly 1 year later, I got cross promoted into Rhino where I spent the rest of my time. And so I just wasn't finding that pulse that drives me forward at all at the labels. It was very what's the word? Disenchanting when you kind of have the veil lifted and you're like, this is it? Like, holy fuck. And I left for a while, but this full circle moment is coming to this current job that I'm at. I'm a personal assistant for an A-list film composer, and I support the whole team. I kind of like to call myself the team manager or something because we have a team of 5 of us who support Henry, and Henry's my boss, and just we're a very small company, and we just all get it done, and like we all move at the same pace of the film. So because we're in post-production, we're at the end of that ride, of that roller coaster kind of thing. This was the first time in my entire career that I've worked this close to the creative. And it was my dream. Obviously I wanted to be a rock star. I didn't care what type of creative. I wanted to be close to a musician. And I mean, there are moments in my job where I sit behind Henry as he's composing to screen. And I never saw that happen. And I'm sitting like 3 feet behind the man, telling him we have to go to his doctor appointment. But like to watch that vessel like create music and then see it on the movie screen later, like that's a dream come true. Yeah. Maybe I'm not selling out stadiums like Josie, but like hang on a minute, like something happened in my life where I took the right steps to like get that close to it.
Right.
Kind of cool. And it's not
that's really cool.
Yeah, like
yeah.
And I tell him I tell him how grateful I am that he brought music into my life in a new way that I never could have imagined. And it's very authentic. It's not like you're like backstage in the green room like doing drugs with the band's groupies. You're in this like really serious and really intense work setting, watching someone produce on demand, essentially like the most moving, emotional music. And I'm just like, I never ever dreamed of this happening, but here it is. To me, this is like a main stage moment.
That's awesome.
That's amazing, though. It would be incredible if you were in the back just like ripping lines with the woodwinds and shit.
Oh man.
So I guess we can all dream.
Yeah. No, but it's funny. Like, it's cool to hear you say that, Sash, because we've been friends for, I don't know, come more than 10 years now. And what's great is, like, I've seen you go from, like, label to label. Like, like, Bear, in 2013, Sasha got us free tickets to see Green Day down in downtown LA. And then we, like, went backstage and, like, didn't hang with them. We were just like there, and they were there, and, like, we were really close to them. And Sasha was just like, yeah, this is just what work is. And I was like, this is fucking wild.
Yeah.
Like, but you're so right about the industry being this place where a lot of people have, which I think is a very unhealthy mentality of, you're really lucky to be here. And it's like, not that you shouldn't count your blessings and be grateful, but I think if someone's forcing that on you, it just makes you less inclined to accept that. It makes you less inclined to be like, I am, like, it's like somebody's telling you how to feel about your job, and it's like, just let me figure out how I feel.
A little gaslighting.
It is gaslighting, and, like, I've worked for people like that in the film industry, and, like, they're not fucking healthy. And there has been, I mean, literally since the Me Too movement, it's been such a reckoning of, so much going on, and for good, But in terms of the satire of Josie and the Pussycats, did you ever see things like that at the label of, like, certain marketing heads being like, let's push this type of product or whatever?
Oh yeah. And you have brilliant Alan Cummings, right, as the band manager.
Dude,
Yep.
He's so committed. Like,
Oh, yeah.
the part in the movie that made me, like, actually, one of the parts that made me laugh out loud was when Missy Pyle says, she's like, oh, I used to live down in England, like, fancy a something, and he goes, fancy a mint.
Fancy a snog, fancy a mint.
Yeah, fancy a snogs, fancy a mint, that's it, yeah.
That's that, and I used to want to be an artist manager, so I for a while I was, like, interning for artist management, and, like, it truly is babysitting. The beginning when they're in the private jet with Du Jour, and he goes, eyes.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
That's awesome.
You're in a zoo. You have I don't know if they'll ever hear this. I hope I don't get fired. I'm sometimes that with Henry.
Awesome.
Wow.
You that. It's weird. I sometimes I'm like, Henry, 5 minutes. We have 2 minutes, honey. I have your secret pack. Let's go. Come on. I snap. It's like I turn into Alan Cummings in that movie, and I'm like, it is real.
No, you're right. It's a real thing. I worked for a director once, and his producer was like, just so you know, he's a wildcat. He's like the type of guy to miss flights or whatever. And then we were flying, to go shoot something on location, and he literally missed the flight, and I had to wait 5 hours for him in the airport when I landed, because he had to get on the next flight, and he was late. And I was like, this sucks. And, like, I didn't realize, like, when the producer said that, I was just like, okay, that's the type of guy he is. But then I was like, oh, no, that's who he is. Like, he misses flights. I don't think I've ever missed a flight in my life, other than maybe it getting canceled.
Oh, no, I've just had the flight take off and me not be there.
How? What happened?
It was in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and I just missed it. And I went up to the gate agent to help me, and I was like, hey, I missed my flight. Can you help? And she's like, oh, what happened? Do you have, like, a flat tire or something? I was like, no, the plane took off and I wasn't here. So need help. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, no, it was an 8 a.m. flight. What do you want me to do? I hate the morning.
Yeah.
So
I think you were the director. That's, like, exactly what happened to him. He was just like, yeah.
Don't book an early flight. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right. It's like if you know who you are, especially at this age, and this guy's like he was in his, I think, late 40s at the time. It's like, if you know that you're gonna miss the flight, like, come on, man, you've lived a while. Like, don't get on a morning flight.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. But that's hilarious, Sasha, that you saw, like, that type of artist management of, like, having to hold their hand a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And as far as, like, product placement is concerned, what I saw from the labels is, I very consistently, actually, across all the labels, is artists really do not want to sell shit through their music. I don't think that's a no-brainer. Like, that's a no-brainer. And it's such a battle. It was such a battle because the marketing department and the promo department, they don't care. They're answering to the bottom dollar. So it would work better if they were doing, if it was like a Fender or a Gibson placement, if it was an instrument something to use. But it would, I've seen arguments. I've seen my bosses melt down over things like sparkling water and Fiji water and things like that, and trying to sell that. But in the end of the day, I don't know. I would like to get your guys' take on this. It's like, this is a weird thing to talk about, like your art versus like commercializing your art by signing a label or by selling your like to something. Like, you're doing it for the business of it, not just for the pleasure, not just for like after work you go to your basement and write a song or something.
But when you say sparkling water, like, what is that? How would that be monetized? Like, would it?
It's just like normal water, but it has CO2 in it, so it has a nice mouthfeel.
No, but like I'm asking, like, how would that be pushed on an artist to sell?
It would to sell. I mean, it'd be more. I've seen it as like appearances, like brand appearances at like parties, and like plugging it like that, or pitching to be in commercials. Like, you see that a lot. Like, you see it a lot.
Yeah.
Of like the Foo Fighters playing in their garage, and then someone brings them a La Croix, and they're like, I mean, not sure. You'll see like commercials, and you'll see placements, and like very special. It's just all of that,
Yeah, like Taylor Swift with Diet Coke.
Exactly.
Or DJ Shadow with Chevy, which bums me out.
Oh yeah.
But what you were asking us something about our commercializing your art. What was the question?
I guess I was just exploring that thought of like the control of the art, and just that's always just such a isn't that such a topic to explore in general? Whatever that art is like when you're selling it, when you're like choosing, I'm going to be in a band as a way of living, as my style, and you're making these choices. Like, part of what comes with that is the sales of that, and just. I mean, from my label days, from the small experience I've had, some artists want to be involved in every single decision, every single placement in a video game, and some don't know about things, and we just talk to their manager, and their manager actually chooses what they tell the artist or not, just based on their temperament alone.
Yeah.
Like, let's not tell Billy Joe that we're putting Welcome to Paradise in a skate video commercial that's going to be on, all these channels. He had, and they always do that kind of like damage control. Like, if he does find out and calls his manager screaming at him, they would rather do it for the money and then back into that. And that's at a point where like you're owned. If you're an artist, someone owns you. Someone owns your intellectual work. It depends on. So
like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, that type of thing.
Yeah, I see that happens a lot too. It happens with the bigger artists where they just don't have the time, they don't have the space to even see everything where their music is going, Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure these people have, they're so used to being handled.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. They're so used to being handled. I don't think a lot of them know a life outside of that. On this campus, we have some pretty famous film composers, and the stories about them. They don't even know how to put gas in their car. Some of them don't even have a driver's license anymore. Like, it's just these things where like, but the way they act about it, there's one composer in particular, and I'm not here to name drop, but he will be embarrassed about the gas one was a real example. He didn't know how to put gas in his car, and he would just like yell at his assistant for not thinking of doing that, until finally the assistant one day was like, "Do you even know how to do this?" And he was like, "No." It's humiliating. Like,
it is. I worked for a guy who couldn't figure out GPS on his phone, and so he like made me print out. He was going to a dinner. And the next day, like, I left. I was like, this job sucks. It was this fucking hack producer, and he
Gary Schmoller.
Yeah, no, that's one of our professors at Chapman. I remember, Bear and I were in a class at Chapman, and I was late every single day because I'm not a morning person. It was early in the morning. And
it was a 10 o'clock class. I fucking made it there.
No, it was like an 8:15 class.
No, I would never take an 8:15 class.
Are you sure?
Positive. Right, it was egregious, your tardiness.
Yeah, it was. I was bad. And I think about halfway through the semester, he looked at me and goes, "Gary Schwaller," and he had a thick Texas accent, your DP and your AD and everything. And he looked at me as I came in late, and he looked at me, looked at the clock, and goes, "You got to quit doing that." And he was and I was shaking to my core. I think from then on I was on time, but like, maybe I wasn't. I don't know. But I was definitely like, oh shit. But anyway, I worked for this producer who made me like print out directions to where he was going, which is so much less efficient than putting GPS on his phone that guides him, and like highlight where they were going, and like he didn't know how to do anything. And within 5 minutes of him leaving the, because like, and then he left. And this was one of those jobs where it's like 9 to like 12 hours, like, you know, 9 to 9, and you're like, you can't leave till he leaves or whatever. But this was like, because you're on the phone all day, it sucks. And he was leaving early to go to this dinner. So when he left, I was like, to his number one, I was like, all right, I'll see you later. And the other guy was like, whoa, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, he's gone, so I'm going home. And he's like, no, you have to wait till he gets there. And I was like, fuck. And then, like clockwork, guy calls me. I pick up the phone. He goes, "Where the fuck am I going? Where the fuck did you put me? I'm fucking Beverly Glen. I'm on fucking Beverly Glen." Oh, and then you're like horns in the background, and he's like, fuck you. Like, this guy.
So it was Dino De Laurentiis.
No, not even close. But like, this guy was out of his mind. And then the next day I was like, this isn't working. And he agreed. He was like, yeah, you know, here's my problem. My expectations are always going to be up here, and right now you're like here, and like, I just need you to be right here very fast. And I was like, listen, dude, I'm out of here. And the one hilarious thing I'll say that I always forget, and I don't know how I forget it, because it's one of the funniest details about a person ever. On my first day on the job, his number one, his like, you know, his VP of production or something, was like telling me all about him. Like, he's a weird guy, or this or that. He's a character. He's like, so things you got to know about him. He's like, every weekend he goes out of town, you know, the same place every weekend, whatever. He hates driving, blah, 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 whatever. And he's like, and you know, he's a very nervous guy. I mean, he went to rehab for eating too many cookies. And I just like started laughing, and he was
You're like, is he blue? Does he live like in a New York type street environment? He's got a friend that lives in a trash can.
Yeah. Yeah, and a bird. Yeah. But like, he said that, and I started laughing, and he's like, no, that's not a joke. And I instantly shut up, and I was like, oh my God. Like, you're serious? And he was like, yeah, I mean, he was really nervous about it. Like, he needed help. And I was like, I just thought that was the most bizarre detail about a person ever. I mean, fucking, God, these fucking businesses we're in, they're ridiculous.
I was going to say that's that expectations comment is like the universal speech for the entertainment industry. It's just anyone on any level of like executive boss will give you that. Yeah, my expectations are here, and you're kind of meeting me here. No matter what, that's like the universal entertainment industry assholing.
It's tough because like, I am a believer in paying your dues, and I am a believer in working hard and doing whatever you can to, you know, make a living. And I've worked so many fucking jobs out here, and I'm not saying I've, you know, struggled and I've had a horrible life. I've had a very blessed life, and I'm lucky, but I've, you know, I've worked a ton of jobs. So I'm definitely not someone who is too proud to do certain things, but at the same time, and I have friends who like are a little bit too proud, and I don't really like see eye to eye with them on that. But at the same time, I also understand not wanting to work for someone who makes you feel like complete shit. Like, I think there's a balance to be had, and I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to your self-worth. As long as it's not hurting your self-worth. And a lot of these places did hurt my self-worth, which is why I got out. Some of them, they fired me, I'll be honest. And some of them I was smart enough to like eventually be like, oh, okay, I got to get out of here. But I think if that's not affected, then you can be okay. I mean, I was a tour guide at Paramount for 2 years, and I had a great time. That was a great experience for me. And the majority of other people that worked there complained every single day. And I think I just was like in a place in my life where I was okay. You know, I was like, I was like, I'm feeling good about myself, and I think this is what I should be doing right now. Whereas other people were there, and they were like constantly just not grateful, and they were just like, this sucks. This pays like shit, and it did pay shit, you know. But I had other jobs to supplement the income, and I think a lot of them thought that they deserve better, and there was a sense of entitlement, which I also think is tough to reconcile as well. But I think, you know, bringing this all back to Josie and the Pussycats, I think that what I appreciated about the movie was that it wasn't really a story about making it with all these things like ego and entitlement, and it was just like a goofy satire of what the music industry was becoming and has since become. Yeah, it has since turned into that. And a lot of people are saying that it was ahead of its time. I wanted to get your guys' take on that. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because it holds up. I mean, in reference to just preparing for this podcast and watching it from that lens, it holds up to be very contemporary. We have TikTok, we have all this bullshit now, and we have all these new ways of like consuming our media and getting our music out there. But I think everything that we've had in this conversation so far is captured within the gaslighting, and, you know, Alan Cummings' character being like, you are lucky to be here. You know, everything is so true. And so it's still the pulse of the industry. Not to mention just to sidebar about their manager, Alexander and his sister Alexandra, and how at one point he goes, why are you even here? And she goes, because I was in the comic book. And he goes, what? And she's like, what? Like, just little, like, very self-aware moments like that, I think, is what contributes to this holding up in a clever way and just allowing you to, like, suspend your belief while you're in that movie, except for I have to believe it because I've lived it, just like you have, like, in just funny ways. And you want to know what? To that point, as I just said that, I was kind of like, it makes me laugh at my reality sometimes. Like, some of the stuff I have to do for this job is hilarious, and that has made it less painful. Because I mean, I really reacted hard to being a personal assistant in the beginning. I couldn't believe people were treated this way, and I had a very hard adjustment to this job. But at this point, I have successfully been able to not take things personally anymore, which is a huge just personal growth moment of mine. And things will happen or blow up, and I can find the humor in it, and I can, like, show a friend and feel better immediately. And like that, to that point, this movie holds up for me. It makes fun of the exact experiences I'm having, and I feel like in a way I'm like, I know that this is some weird alternative reality that is the Hollywood and music industry anyway. And we're all crazy creatives. We're all crazy. We're just in LA because we're brave enough to admit that we're crazy and run with it.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Very
Everyone,
well said.
all crazy. We just believe in our own craziness down here.
Yeah. What about you, Bear? What do you think?
I hated my first watch of this. I ended up watching it twice. It was a tough to get through for me. But the longer I spent away from it, the more I kind of liked it a little bit more. I could tell it was a pre 9/11 movie because there was way too much airplane crash humor. And the beginning of it is probably the best part. It's got an incredible transition from Leo the Lion into the
fan. Yeah,
into the fan,
which was great.
There's a Justin Chatwick sighting early on. Who
I caught that too.
Love interest. Yeah, it took me a bit. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah,
so I had to pause and figure that out because it bothered me so much.
Yeah.
I wanted to like this movie a lot. I wanted to like it a lot more than I ended up liking it, but parts of it are great. I mean, Backdoor Lover as a joke to smuggle into what's essentially a kids movie is an incredibly ambitious anal sex joke, or a reference to the Catholic Church, and I don't know which one it is, but I like it either way. And that was a really strong start. So I think some of the best funny shits in the beginning. Yeah, but overall, it felt like kind of a chore. Like, I hated. Actually, let me start positively. The first note I wrote down was, "Holy shit, do I miss the aesthetic of 2001?" Which I haven't really thought about since I watched Lady Bird in the theater when that came out, because I think that's set in like 2002.
Yeah.
And kind of nailed what it was like to have just huge clothes and like bad music, body glitter, chains on shit. So I do miss that, having lived through it. At one point, I think I had like 20 minutes left in the movie, and I texted my sister because I knew she liked it. And I texted her like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, what is this? And I will read her response because it was actually quite good. And she said, the songs are sung by the lead singer of Letters to Cleo, obviously. She liked the amazing performances by Rosario Dawson. Seconded. She's ageless, and I'm confused as to why she's not a bigger star.
Yeah, she's great.
Tara Reid. This is a surgical deployment of Tara Reid's talents. This is perfect casting for Tara Reid. She's actually great.
Yeah, apparently. So she apparently didn't have. She was the only one of them that didn't have to audition. The studio was,
they nailed it.
Yeah, the studio
someone just drilled that choice.
Yeah, because they loved her from the American Pie movies. Because they had, I think they might have shot American Pie 2 already, or at the very least were shooting it. And they were like, and Universal was like, we love Tara. Let's get her in there. And also, fun fact, Beyonce, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, and Aaliyah all auditioned for Valerie for Rosario Dawson's part. And Beyonce was too shy, and Aaliyah was a little too stern and serious, and Left Eye auditioned twice, but eventually they gave it to Rosario. And what's also fucked up about that is that both Lisa Left Eye and Aaliyah are gone now.
I was going to say, no sequel potential if they went with either of them.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. But
the thing that my sister pointed out, that is probably my favorite part too, is that she said it starts out kind of bizarre, but gives way to a very relevant and insightful investigation about how the media can influence consumers to buy certain things, and pop music is just another tool of capitalism. Terrible one-liners, but incredible message. It taught me about product placement and maybe 100% smarter as a consumer of media. Also, rockin' jams with a Z. So that I liked that shit. I mean, this is basically They Live for preteens, and I think, like you said, is this a relevant movie today? Yeah, kind of, but I think it's been done better, and in a way, I think if you watch this as a kid and you like it, and it gets you into watching some seriously more ideological, maybe even harder to watch fare like They Live, that's actually extremely leftist and very anti kind of the flow of how our society just kind of guides you into liking these things because this is the accepted thing. Orange is the new pink or whatever. I think that is overall good for people. Mm-hmm. But I hated the way this movie was shot. Every shot is the same. I don't know why they did so many dead on, just straight to the camera shots. It really makes you aware that the entire thing was shot on a soundstage. That bothered me. Outside of just kind of missing how life was in 2001, I didn't. I wish that I'd connected with it more, because I think that the message of shit is used to separate you from your money, and that's kind of it. So you may not want to put all of your identity into the things you consume, is a really good message. I just found it to be a little slow.
I think that's very valid. I fall somewhere in between you guys, because funnily enough, I actually didn't like it in the beginning. Like pretty quickly I was like, shit, this is not for me. Like, I liked the transition.
What is legitimately not for you?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not for me either.
Right, but I like the transition from the lion into the screaming fan. I thought that was great. But I thought the plane part, the scene on the plane, I just didn't really find it that funny. I did get a kick out of the slapping of the hands and stuff.
Yeah, you're out of your mind. The slapping of hands is a great joke, and there's a Dr. Zaius reference that has no place in this movie but made me laugh pretty hard.
Which one? Where was that again?
He calls his monkey Dr. Zaius,
right,
which is a Planet of the Apes reference.
Yes.
Which, what kid is going to get that? That's awesome.
That is great. That's true. I just felt like in the beginning I was like, I'm not really into this. But once I started to pick up on the message, and what it was trying to say, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. But similar to you, Bear, I didn't love the way it was shot either. It felt kind of patched together and slapdash and all those fast zooms. As much as I enjoyed parts of that, there was so much of that, and there were a lot of like fisheye lenses, and I was like, why are those here? Which I thought was bizarre.
But it's shot the way I would shoot it because I'm bad at making movies. It's basically, we'll just shoot this.
Well, it shot the way that that a kid would, shoot the what was I gonna say? Like shoot on their parents' camcorder or something like that. But I will say, one part that I thought was very clever was when he almost hits them, and the Meatloaf song "Paradise by the Dashboard Light" is playing, and it's slow motion, and he holds up the empty CD case, and he sees them as the #1 band thing. I thought that was very, very well staged and well done.
I wrote down in my notes, I still like Meatloaf. I don't care.
Dude, that song is an epic. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I thought that, again, the more I figured out what was going on, I liked what it was saying. And I always love Alan Cumming because he's just always committed. And same with Parker Posey. She's great.
I love Parker Posey, but she is the worst role in this movie, and it turns into kids movie villainy shit towards the end.
Yeah.
It is not a good use of how good she is.
Apparently she wasn't easy to work with either.
The end, really, the wheels came off. I'm with you guys. That was a shitty ending to this movie. It just sucks. But I mean, you know why I'm in this, right? Just all for personal nostalgic.
Yeah. But that's kind of what we're talking about, is like, I think if we had seen it as kids, we might have liked it more because it's like, we would have had a fun time, but then also like the message of it. I'm with Bear. I think I think I'm in between because I liked it as it went. So I didn't end it with kind of I liked it more as it went on, of like, oh, I get it. That's an interesting way to, to explore that type of satire. I think that ultimately it wasn't my favorite thing, but I definitely liked what it had to say, and I think it did I give it a lot of credit for being very prescient and for calling out the music industry for what it was and is, and I thought that was very smart on the filmmaker's part. So it's definitely not a stupid movie, but that's the thing, is the marketing. Like, there was a reason why we had heard of it when we were 11 and 12, but we weren't really the target audience in a way, because we didn't pick up on, I mean, I don't know about you, Sasha, did you pick up on all that stuff when you were a kid?
Yes, which is, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had a very young awareness of of things. My parents would talk about it too, like. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, but I was pretty aware, because I would quickly analyze. I would really easily notice how many brand placements, because it's overwhelming. Like, they do that on purpose, right. Of course. So then I would kind of think, I think I asked my dad about that, who's very smart business brain. Like, it's very dry, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's like, you could almost miss it as a kid. So I'm not saying like I was a fucking child genius, which I was, but I am saying really aware of it not being normal. And then
right.
So because it was overwhelming. And I loved the cartoon series when I was a kid, and I just paid attention to this, and yeah.
Good for you. Wow. You completely proved me wrong. I was like, well, we wouldn't have gotten that, right? And you were like, actually, I got all of it.
Child genius.
Well, it's not subtle. I think you'd pick up on it.
It's
just
true.
I don't think if you're a kid outside of Sasha, you may not be comfortable with those ideas already. So
that's true.
I don't know how you'd process that if you were like
around the same time
in your face.
I auditioned at this talent agency up in Marin County called John Robert Powers, and I got a call back, and I was stoked. I heard about it on Radio Disney, the audition.
Hell yeah!
Wow.
3 kids who got called back. I was a very good actress. Like, I was very committed. Andrew, I was an actress who really wanted her part. And
we have to share that before we go.
And my parents took me in for the second audition, and then they tried to sell me acting classes. So it was kind of a scam, right? Where they were like, And they were like, you might land a commercial like Jessica Biel. That's how she got. And so my parents made me do it, and I was crying, and I was like, why won't you let me? This is my calling. Like, and they explained to me the industry, and they were like, we're not putting you in that. And you don't get to do that. And they showed me the movie 13. I don't remember when that came out, but like my parents were really real with
that's
me.
a heavy movie.
2005 maybe. You've got a naked Holly Hunter in that movie.
Yeah, you do.
So my parents, why you're not going to be an actress. So they kind of conditioned me at a young age. But yeah, when I was really hyper aware of this stuff, and I was like inquisitive and curious, and I was like wondering my rock star life that I really wanted to. And now I'm 30 and I'm hanging out with rock stars, like who I would consider rock stars, like today in LA. And I'm like, oh, you guys don't even do your dishes. You know what I mean? I'm like such a grandma, but I'm happy. I really am. I'm like, can we like do your dishes while you mix that song? I'll be over here. Like, that's
amazing.
For better or worse, that's why I'm becoming a creative career coach, because I fucking super attracted to creatives, but I'm not that, and I'm happy with who I am, but I want to be around it.
Yeah. Plug that for a second, creative career coach.
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my credentialing in my academy to become a full-time creative career coach. And essentially it's life coaching for creatives and artists, but it's not, it's weird saying it in LA. It comes off as very woo-woo. It's like very goop, but it's not. It's a incredibly strategic and skilled partnership, essentially, that you enter in with a person to help them set and establish really clear goals based on what their vision and dreams are, and essentially strategize getting to those goals. And it's phenomenal. I went through 6 months of coaching myself before I decided like this is what I want to do and how I want to connect with people. And it's incredibly engaging, and I feel like I'm part of a creative partnership with some of my clients, and we're just there's thing is dreaming too big. I mean, it sounds very woo-woo, like I keep saying, but at the end of the day, what we really need to learn as artists is it just taking personal responsibility to get there. I talk to a lot of people who are like, well, all this happened to me, and I got laid off, and no one handed this to me, and I'm like, no one will ever hand anything to you. So we need to come up with your goals and your steps to get there, and then we need to just take those steps, taking action, what we call in coaching trouble at the border, taking things from visionary reality into physical reality, making it happen. You reach a point where you meet trouble at the border, like you can't take it beyond that. And coaching really helps you get there through strategy. So I think it's super cool, and it's really what I think a lot of artists need, but maybe don't know they need, or don't know what they need to make it, because again, no one hands anything to you. This is not how the world works. Whether, no one will notice you. To circle back to Josie and the Pussycats, when she's in the living room, she goes, we need to be responsible for being seen. We need to go play on the streets. We need to go do this for ourselves. No one's going to make it happen for us. Like, that's the attitude. That's coaching. No one's going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen for me. And this is how I'm going to make it happen for me. The how is where we always get stuck. So that's what's hit me up if you want to coach, because let's get there.
Yeah. Well, you guys heard it here. How can people reach you and find out?
You can check out my website, sashapatpatia.com. And there's you can send me an email through my website, and let's get started. And I don't know, it's really exciting. And I'm taking clients on a sliding scale right now, because I do work with artists, and it is COVID, and we're entering a huge recession that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome though.
Yeah. No, and I have custom packages, like 6 months packages, and at least 3 months, because it's not just a one-off thing. Coaching is transformation. So transformation is different from change. You don't slide back from transforming who you are. So
right. That's awesome, Sash. I'm proud of you. That sounds great.
Thank you. I'm so excited about it.
So, Josie and the Pussycats, is it still good, Sasha?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How about you, Bear?
No, but, if I have kids and, they're girls and they want to watch it, and even if they're boys, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Learn something. Learn how the world works. You'll probably enjoy it. And by the way, if you like that soundtrack, I got plenty more in my CD tower we can fire up for you.
Yeah, I got more where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think it's a no for me too. But I think for both Bear and I, it's a soft no. Like,
soft no.
We got to be honest. It's like if you didn't enjoy watching something. Like, I enjoyed learning more about it after than I did watching the thing. But before we go, so you heard earlier when Sasha said, I was an actor who really wanted their part. And I said, we got to share that before you go. So, Sasha, do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
Read it.
Me read it? Okay. So, when Sasha was, how old were you? You were 11.
Same year. Huge year.
Same year. So, this was something that, like, went quote-unquote viral within our friend group at Chapman, and it has since made a resurgence every like year. It just comes up again. So this was something that we found on Amazon, and this was a review that Sasha wrote April 21st, 2002 of the Harry Potter DVD.
Let's go.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, two-disc special widescreen edition. So it's 5 stars, and Harry Potter by Sasha Patpatia, and it reads like this. This movie is fabulous. The sets were so real, the actors really wanted their parts, and the production was fantastic. No other movie could do such a better job, and it's all thanks to the brilliant author J.K. Rowling.
Little misunderstanding of how film works, but I love that you pointed out that the sets were good first. That's excellent, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Like, I love set design and production shit. Like, that's my favorite shit.
Yeah.
But you were way ahead of the curve there. Like, for an 11-year-old, I would have thought, like, oh, I like the story and...
the monsters.
The monsters, and Harry's, such a heartthrob. But right to set design, that's fabulous.
Right there.
Yeah. Just like the movie. Fabulous.
Absolutely.
This was me trying to market myself because prior to writing that review, I sent in a headshot to Fox Studios. I was like, well, I'm Indian, so I can play Parvati Patil.
Ah, there you go.
Sent in a picture my sister took on my iZod camera. Do we remember this? They would print.
Oh, yeah.
So I sent in a picture literally like 1 inch by 1 inch. And with my with a letter, handwritten letter saying why I should play in the movie. And then I wrote this review as part of my marketing in case they Googled me and could see that I'm a true fan.
That's amazing. And I fucking love that the actors really wanted their parts.
Yeah, that's
my favorite thing ever. Like I just think that is so funny. Well, Sasha, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys can follow Sasha on Instagram. Sasha, what's your Instagram handle?
Just Sash Pat, SASHPAT. Come at me.
Yeah. Come at her and check out SashaPatpatia.com for all your creative life coaching needs. And so, Josie and the Pussycats, it's a soft no from Bear and I. It's a hard yes from Sasha. If you disagree or agree, shoot us an email, stillgoodshow@gmail.com. You can check out our website, stillgoodshow.com, or follow us on Instagram @stillgoodshow. Next week, we will be discussing the Disney Channel original movie, Cadet Kelly. You're welcome.
No, I'm tuning in.
we'll get you back for something else.
Yeah, we'll get you back. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.